So, evening on a Sunday. Everybody that knows me knows that Val doesn't go on a Sunday, but I had such a special guest, and there was no choice but to have him on today. Now, for all that knows me, I'm not sad. I'm not sad. I know you're all going to think I'm sad because Spurs lost today. The soccer was on. Man City, we played very well against Man City. So this is the Sunday edition of my Sports Edition show. And I've got the most amazing guest sitting as I speak in the green room, ready to come on board. Ready. So I just want to say positive affirmations as always to everybody else. And yes, I've caught the sun. Oh, here we go. Everyone's jumping onto my live. Please jump in. This man has a story to tell. Now, for all the boxing enthusiasts, the pugilists, you know what I'm talking about. All the boxing fans that know me and we talk a lot, you know this man. But for those who have only just got into boxing, I hope kick back, grab a drink. Don't be too upset that Man City beat Spurs. I mean, a lot of you are happy that we lost. But sit back. Let's listen to this man. Now, if you think of Pernell Whitaker and you think about Tyson or Arturo Gatti or who should I say, Antio Tava, the list goes on. But he is in the UK. A lot of you probably didn't know that, but he is in the UK this week because the Derek Chisora's fight is on. And that's not why he's only here. I wanted him on because he's been one of my unsung heroes as a boxer and also as a tremendous boxing coach. His wealth of knowledge, I just need to tap into it today. So without further ado, please welcome to the audience today, James Buddy McGIRK.
Hello.
How are you?
Okay, and yourself?
As I said to you, I am super stoked to have you on. And if I go into American, it's only because I can't help myself. No, I'm only kidding. I'm going to stay as British as they come. But James Buddy McGIRK, thank you so much for joining us today. As I said to you early, we don't really do a Sunday, but when we have a Hall of Famer and a man with so much wealth of knowledge, it's only just that we get you on today. So thank you in advance for coming on.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Okay. Buddy, while you're here, let's start the show. Give yourself an introduction to the UK and do you know what I mean, where you're from, because I'm going to be going deep. I'm just letting you know.
My name is James Buddy McGIRK. I'm from Brentwood, Long Island, New York, but now I live in Florida. I got tired of shoveling snow, so I moved to Florida.
Oh wow!
And here I'm now in the UK getting Derek ready for his fight next week.
That which a lot of people are probably thinking, really, Derek Chisora, Buddy McGIRK. For me, when I heard that's what you were doing, that for me, in terms of for Derek, that is a coup, massive coup, because Derek is he's rugged, he's a war. He goes to war,
exactly.
You know, and there's a lot about him. But that is not. We'll come to that in a minute. Let's go with you first and foremost. So you come from. Oh, someone's buzzing me already. Let's turn this down. You are from, I know, is it Brentwood, New York, originally?
Yeah.
Growing up in the 60s and 70s, around that time, because boxing is so different to now. What was it like growing up?
I mean, but to be honest, I started following boxing when I started boxing in 1976, and back then there was fights on TV every weekend.
Yeah.
Every Saturday and Sunday there was fights on TV.
Yeah.
So you had a chance to watch a lot of the greats. fight all over the world, and it was interesting because if you wanted to look for me on the weekend, you knew where I was, home watching the boxing match.
Yeah, yeah. So, but you went into boxing from how old would you say were you young before you went into boxing?
I was 12 years old when I started.
Yikes.
I started on my 12th birthday.
Oh my God. Is that something that you wanted to do, or was that your family, or it's just a
It's
passion of
something.
watching?
I was at this recreation center in my neighborhood, and they had all different kinds of activities there. And I seen the professional boxers, and I used to sit and watch them. And then one day, a friend of mine said, "When are you going to have boxing for kids?" And he goes, "We're going to have it next week, January 17th. But you got to be 12 years old." And that was my 12th birthday, January 17th.
And you see, that's what you see, this is what I thought the January the 17th was when you actually went into boxing as in an amateur, but 12 years old is when you actually officially started.
That's when I
What was
started.
your amateur, yeah, what was your amateur record like?
I didn't really win any big tournaments as a kid. When I first started boxing, I had asthma very bad. So after like a round and a half, I was dead. So, as I got older, the asthma got better, and I got more and more into it. I started to love it more. I loved it from day one, but the love just grew each year, each year. And by the time I was 15, 16, I was like in that zone.
And you were the very athletic, and I've got some pictures to show, as I said, further down the line. So you didn't do it for the amateurs, but you went
I did
pro.
the, I did the, I did the amateurs, but I
Yeah.
didn't have a great amateur career.
Okay. All right. So you didn't have an amateur career, but
Yeah.
your first fight, which I'm going to put right here. So you started out. Here we go. We've got a record. I don't know if anyone can see this. And so your I don't know if you can see it yourself. Can you see it on the screen?
Yeah, my first fight was March 2nd, 1982.
That's correct. That is correct.
I was
Do you remember who you fought?
Yes, I fought a kid named Lamont Hayes Coach.
Yeah.
The fight was on a Tuesday night in North Bergen, New Jersey. I was a senior in high school, and I went to school that day. After school, my manager picked me up, and we drove to New Jersey.
So that was your first was that amateur or professional?
That was my first professional fight.
Wow. And then you went on to fight, I think, a 3 or 4 times, 5, 6, 7, it was about 8, if I correctly right. You then fought for the first, is it this junior intercontinental title?
Yes.
Light?
Uh-huh. Yes.
It's in my head. Tell us who you fought there, because you're a historian, and I don't know if you
I fought a kid named Sugar Boy Nando.
That's
The fight
correct.
was in Miami, Florida.
Yeah.
And I know I stopped him, but I don't remember which round. But
No.
I know I did
Yeah.
stop him. And
You
then
did.
and then after that, everything started progressing after that.
Because if people don't know, your record is 80 pro fights. You won 73 of those with only 6 losses and 1 draw. Now, in those back in the 80s, I would the late 70s, in the 80s, up until 90, the 90s, that's a prolific record to have, because the quality of the boxers that was around at that time,
Right.
the Peter Whitakers, etc., the Howard Davis,
Right.
Simon Browns, that is a beautiful record to have. How difficult? You had a good trainer. Who was your trainer around that time?
When I
And they
first when I first started, it was an old Italian man named Dominic Amorosa. He took over. I mean, he taught me so much. I mean that I carry it till this day as a trainer. The stuff that he taught me, and then I had the pleasure of being around a lot of former world champions from the
nice,
30s and 40s. Like,
nice. Give us a taste.
okay, I'm going to give you you can say Willie Pep,
Oh, good.
Rocky
Yeah.
Graziano, Jake LaMotta, Joey Giardello, and my
Bring your phone
favorite.
down just a little bit. Bring your phone
Oh, I'm
down.
sorry.
Yeah, we're
And
losing
my
it. Yes,
and
yeah,
my favorite Jersey Joe Walcott, who was heavyweight champion. So I got a chance to spend time with these gentlemen. They used to come watch me train. And I used to pick their brains all the time.
yeah, yeah. You fought 4 times 4 different from the WBC, the IBF titles, and all of them you won. And again, I've got them. Let me just show you some. If oblige me, let me show you what I have.
For 15. There's the body punch, the left hook by Buddy McGIRK to Howard Davis. That's an effective punch for Buddy for 2 reasons. One, it's going to help him weaken Howard's legs over the long haul. And 2, Howard Davis, we spoke about his chin problem. There is a chin.
The right drops from the chopping right hand. He is flat on his back, and the chin has failed the early test. Howard Davis may not make it all the way up. It'll be a struggle if he does. It is all over. A first-round knockout for Buddy McGIRK. A successful and a dynamic defense of his world championship.
Just when you're saying you didn't have one.
I was cheering. I watched it so many times that I still continue to cheer. That knockout, the thing. So, you know, in the boxing world, me growing up, and then when I did see you fighting, you had this engine, and a lot of your fights went to the distance. And so I'm very shocked when you said to me that you had asthma, because you didn't fight like someone that was asthmatic. But then do you know what I mean? Do you remember that fight with Howard Davis?
Oh yes, but I remember it because I sparred with Howard Davis when I was an amateur. No, yes, when I was an amateur, I was sparring with him to help him get ready for a fight in 1981, and he was fast. I mean, he was one of the best fighters on the '76 Olympic team. You know, he won a gold medal and all. But as a pro, you know, for some reason, I mean, he fought for the title a couple of times, and he, you know, one time he lost to Jim Watt, and then he lost to Edwin Rosario in a fight that a lot of people thought he won.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
you.
So I knew that what it would take to beat him, you know, and I knew that it was hot outside that day, so I knew I had to attack early.
And you did, because I don't think anybody expected that first round knockout.
No, I didn't expect.
No, you didn't either, because when you see the way that you both start, because you know you had your orthodox, and in terms of his boxing stance,
right,
he said he was quite silky smooth. But when it came to you guys, you were able to tag him. Sorry, now I'm definitely supposed to be interviewing him, and I'm now going into actually someone fight, which was a beautiful fight. With even that title, you held that title. I'm going to bring it back up here. And then you fought Colonel Whitaker. And I think that was the only time that you had part 1 and you had part 2, didn't you?
That was later. That was
later. Yeah. That's right.
Yes.
But the question I want to ask you, going into the Colonel Whitaker fight, I heard that you injured your hand or your shoulder.
Yes.
Prior, and that was the first fight, wasn't it? Tell me about that.
Well, to be honest, I knew something was wrong, but the doctors and my managers told me I was okay. And I found out later on that they told me that I was okay because they felt it was a career-ending injury. So they told me I'll be okay because it was a big payday. So they figured, okay, let's get this big payday for the kid because his career is over. So, you know, I went in the fight, and, you know, the day of the fight, the doctor gave me 2 cortisone shots on my shoulder.
Oy.
You know what I mean?
You went the distance, though.
Yes.
You went the distance in the first fight. Watch this.
One thing Hazard brings to the job is a booming voice. That's right, and even he has some demand. Already the showboating from Whitaker, who threw a punch behind his back.
It reminds you of one of those little guys who walks into a bar and say, hey, I'll fight any big guy in here. Just a mean little guy.
Yeah, he has that kind of consciousness for sure. Claims that when he was a kid, before his amateur stardom days, he used to spar with heavyweights in the gyms in Norfolk, Virginia. This is the 6th time in Buddy McGIRK's career that he has been in the ring with a southpaw. Actually, the 7th time. He's fought 6 previous southpaws and has knocked out 5 of them. Whitaker trying to go to the body with the left. Purnell, in recent years, has become an accomplished body puncher.
The thing about Buddy McGIRK, he's knocked down true welterweights who's melted down from middleweights.
Magoo off balance, McGIRK, I should say, his nickname in the eyes of many is Magoo. Off balance into the ropes.
Gosh, rest in peace, Pernell Whitaker. But that was an epic fight. Watching it all back there, what's going through your mind?
You know, to be honest with you, that night I was just pretty much, not wanting to do too much with my arm because after the first round, my arm just didn't feel right. But I knew that I said, look, I'm here. I'm in the trenches. I got to handle my business. So, I mean, I went out, did what I had to do. I lost a close decision. But, that's boxing. I don't, it is what it is.
It really was a close decision.
Yes.
Because after that, I'm just bringing up all the fights after that, because I got everything right here. Because after Pernell Whitaker, a year later, so that was 1993, a year later, 94, you went back into the ring with him again. What was the deal that you had to part to? But there are not fighters because you thought that your career was going to end.
They told me when I had the surgery, they told me that was it. They told me I won't fight again.
But you proved them wrong.
They told me it was over when I had the surgery. So I fought it 6 months later. Yeah. And I fought like 4 or 5 times in that year just to get the rematch. But when I got the rematch, the fight was gone. I got there. I did what they said I couldn't do. So once I got there, once they told me that I had to fight, that was it for me. I didn't want to fight anymore.
Are you so you had lost the passion? You lost it. It's like because of all the information that you were told, it sucked everything out of you.
Yeah. So so by doing that, I just I went through the motions in that fight. Not taking anything away from Purnell.
Yeah.
Once I fought a guy, Pat Coleman, and once they told me that I had to fight with Purnell, that day, my desire, everything just left me that day.
That's right, because you said, as you said, you fought James Hughes, Livingston Bramble, Kevin Pompey, all of those fights that you took, but you beat them. Do you know what I mean? A couple of them was on undisputed decisions. But did you think that your injury hampered you even before the second fight? And then
after the first fight, when I had believe it or not, I got injured before. I got injured in December of 1992.
That's correct. Yes.
I had to make a mandatory January of 1993, then fight Purnell. So I fought 2 fights with a torn rotator cuff. Being misinformed by the doctors, telling me it was only tendonitis.
I'm taking a deep breath for you. But after Pernell Whitaker, you went on to fight another 8 or 7, and then you called it today.
The fight was gone.
Yeah, I thought so. So you decided to call it a day, and I believe that was 1999, wasn't it, or 98?
No, 97.
97. You decided to call it a day. I think you fought Jerry Smith, and then your last fight was with Darren Masisinski.
Yes.
That was your last fight. The question I want to ask you going forward, what did you take away from, because that's an illustrious career, what did you take away from all of those fights? Injury or no injury?
I mean, you can't really explain it. It's something that it helps you in life because you're faced with different types of adversity, and you have a split second to make a quick decision. So, wait a minute, my camera here is messing up. Using the camera on me.
I've got you. Lost your head. There you go. Beautiful.
So you have to
come back a little bit more. Yes, we've got you.
So it helps you because you dealt with situations where you have a split second to make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
But you got the man in front of you that's trying to hurt you. So And before that, you're prepared mentally, physically every day. Days you don't want to get up and run, you have to get up and run. Days you want to go to the gym, no one's going to do it for you. And the difference between boxing and other sports is in boxing, if you get tired, you can't call a timeout and go sit on the sideline. You got to sit there and you got to handle your business. So it just helped me in so many ways that I can really explain it. Like when you face adversity in life, you think about things you did in the ring and how you handle it and how you made decisions in that split second.
After you hung up your boots, I should say, your boots and your gloves. Um, how soon did you transition, and what made you then decide to train? Because was
It's
that
funny.
passion to go into?
The day I started boxing on my 12th birthday, the next day I wanted to be a trainer.
What's literally as you hung up your gloves?
No, when I was 12, I said, I loved boxing, but the next day I said, I really want to be a trainer. So pretty much, excuse me, I pretty much taught myself because that's something I wanted to do. I've always loved using my brain and teaching somebody how to outsmart somebody else.
Yeah. And so you went into training. But
No, I didn't. No, I didn't go into training.
That's what I mean. When you hung up your gloves, when you finished.
So when I went into gloves, I went into training. It wasn't easy. It was kind of hard making that adjustment.
I was going to say, in what way? Because obviously, did you miss? I mean, even if you've lost the passion for the football anymore, you've still got to find that same passion to train someone.
Yes, you know what I mean. So I mean, I said to myself, "What else you gonna do, buddy? You box your whole life." You know what I mean? I tried jobs in an office, but that just wasn't for me. Sit behind a desk. When I retired, people were like, "Yo, come work for my company." But me getting in a suit and tie, sitting behind a desk every day, just wasn't my cup of tea.
Yeah.
I couldn't handle it. I'm like, I got to get into the gym. I gotta do what I do best.
But you went into the training, and you actually didn't fully trained. You took on someone and trained them literally off the cuff. Do you remember who that was? Right at the beginning.
No, I don't. I'm gonna be honest. When I was fighting, I trained an amateur kid named Andy Cologne. I was training him. He never turned pro. He stayed amateur. But we used to train like I would train in the daytime. Then when I get back from Jersey, I train him in the evening time in New York.
And even by the time you had finished your career as a boxer, and now you're embarking on, you've got the taste now, you've got that bug now to be a trainer. You got indicted, didn't you? You got in, how do you call it? Inducted by then, I think it was 2002, into the Hall of Famer
No. In 2002, I was Trainer of the Year.
That's it, Trainer of the Year.
I got the Trainer of the Year in 2002. I got inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2019.
Oh, you took that away from me. Because I wanted to know.
2002, I was Trainer of the Year in 2002.
Yeah, Trainer of the Year. That's a massive accolade. You know what I mean? To be in, but as a trainer, we're going to step away from your boxing career. As a trainer, when you saw people that's come to you, because you didn't open the gym straight away, because you've got the boxing gym, the McGIRK boxing. You didn't open that straight away, did you?
No, I didn't. No, I was training in different gyms, and then I started working for Don King. And I was working for Don King, and then I moved. Then when I moved to Florida, things started picking up, and then that's when I opened the gym.
Because under Don King, is that when you had Anthony Taverna underneath you? So that was after.
No, right before that. When I got Antonio Tarver, I was still working for Don.
That's right.
And then Antonio had a fight against one of Don King guys. So they said, we're not going to pay you for you to train a guy to beat our guy. You know what I mean? So what are you going to do? You're going to work for us? You're going to go on your own? I'm like, I'm going on my own then. Then I went on my own.
But that's like extortion.
No, because I was working for them. They was paying me to work for them. And they said, buddy, wait a minute. Our guy's fighting this other guy you're fighting. Whose corner are you going to take? I said, I'm going with Tarver. They says, well, then we're not going to pay you to train a guy to beat our guy. Which I was like, okay, no problem. And I made the right choice when I went with Antonio.
You did.
Yes.
A great silky boxer. You left. Is that when you left Don King and you decided to? I'm gonna now open up my own training.
Yeah.
Because not only did you have Antonio, you had Arturo Gatti. I'm gonna come back to all these guys. You've had some prolific. Oh my God, and every single one of them are mine. James Toney. You've had under your belt as well. Paul Magliani, who's one of our. He does a lot of the Sky Sports.
Yeah.
And I remember you being in his corner. And the thing is, you've had all of these guys under you. Which one of them do you say came to you had full potential, or did they fight before and then they came to you?
Oh, they all had potential. I mean, they all could already fight. They all, Tarver was a decorated amateur. He had won a bronze medal. You know what I mean? And I had got Antonio Tarver after he had his first loss. A lot of people had written him off. You know what I mean? They had written him off.
Okay.
And then I got him. And then I had God bless Johnny Tapia. I had Johnny Tapia at that time. Then I got Arturo. And then after that,
Tapia was a badass fighter. Yeah.
I mean, then after that, it was like a snowball effect. Then it just started.
When you see these fighters, so the fighters that I've just mentioned to you are renowned boxers. But when people come to you, they find you, they allocate you. And this is why I'm going to come back to Derek Chisora, because I want to know, how did that happen? Do you actually see the talent in them? I'm talking about raw talent, people that come to you. How difficult do you find it to say to someone, I don't think you have that?
Well, the first thing I do is I tell any fighter, let's spend a week together to see if we connect. I mean, we might be friends outside the gym, but in the gym, we might not connect. We might not be on the same page. So I said, let's get a weekend together and see if we click. See if there's something there. Then if there's something there, then we go from there. And if there's nothing there, there's no hard feelings, we still stay friends. Because if you start out and says, okay, we're gonna work, and then you guys don't click, and then there's tension, you don't want to have that.
In today's boxing, do you see that still happens though? You've got I've seen trainers with boxers that really don't know what to do with them. And what would you say? Do you not see the same thing? Because
yes, I mean, boxing has changed so much. I mean, it's changed to the point where it gets to me, it's kind of scary because half of these guys don't know what the hell they're doing.
Right. Please don't get me started.
They're yes men, you know what I mean? They don't want to lose their job, so they do whatever the fighter tells them to do.
Yeah.
When I was fighting, you never ever question your trainer. If he told you to do something, you did it, and that was it. No questions asked. If you didn't do it, they tell you to hit the bricks, get out the gym.
And not only that, loyalty. There's no loyalty anymore.
They can't even spell loyalty.
Loyalty, the boxers. It's they jump ship. This is in my opinion, and I don't know if you can back me up here. In my opinion, watching boxing over a period of 25 years, a different era, what we're in now, the boxers just seem to just say, yeah, okay, I want to move my trainer. They don't say to the trainer, okay, this is not working for me, blah, blah, let's finish. They'll sign a deal and then, do you know what I mean, walk away. And I've seen it happen with a few boxers I've had, and I've spoken to a few boxers that I've had on the show. Is that something that you've come across? Is that how you engage in the boxing?
You get guys now that they go to the guy who worked for the least amount of money. And I'm a firm believer you get what you pay for.
Right. I didn't really like that. So it's the least amount of money that they'll go work somewhere?
If they get a trainer that wants to train them and he wants $12 and another trainer comes along and says, I'll take 10. Most of the fighters say, okay, I'm gonna go with this guy for the $10.
So they get what they ask for, basically. Do you know
There
what I
you
mean?
go.
And that's, you get what they ask for.
And the guy that's taking the $10 is doing whatever he can do to keep his job. Yeah, I mean, these guys don't know. I mean, there's no old school guys who can stand and tell a fighter, look, it's either this way or I'm out of here. You very rarely get that.
See, you're from a school of the Eddie Futchs and, you know, I wouldn't say so much D'Amato, who was Mike Tyson's trainer. Actually, that reminds me. I could have sworn I saw you. I might be wrong. Correct me. But you had some involvement with Tyson right at in the early days, didn't you?
No, Tyson came to me in like 2005, 6, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And you know, you could see he didn't want to fight anymore. You know, I could see it in him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I've known Mike since he was 16 years old. You know what I mean? So you know, as a fighter, you know when that fight is not there in another fighter
Yeah.
anymore.
I saw it. I saw it. I saw
You know
it.
what I mean?
So wait. So you saw him. I think he wanted to fight. Was it not the Black Rhino or White Rhino? One of
Yes,
our
the Black Rhino. I
Black
mean,
Rhino.
what happened was the Black Rhino and his manager Les Bonanno came to Florida to meet with me about training the Black Rhino. So I said, okay. So we shook hands, we cut a deal, and then the very next day, Shelly Finkel calls me and says, Mike Tyson wants to meet with you. So I go meet with Mike Tyson, and he's like, yeah, I want you to be my trainer. I'm like, cool, no problem. And then a couple of days later, he calls me and says, hey, I'm fighting the Black Rhino. I'm like, what? so, so
The fighters didn't know who they were fighting.
So they were like, all right, buddy, what are you gonna do? And I'm like, listen, I says, I made a deal with the Black Rhino. I shook his manager's hand already. I can't go back on my word. I got to stick to it.
And hence,
You know
you ended up not being in Tyson's corner.
I mean, yeah. And everybody told me you crazy. I said, listen, man, I gave the man my word. I mean, I shook and Les Bonanno, who managed the Black Rhino, was an old friend of mine. And you know, I shook his hand, so I couldn't do it. I mean, it was more money, but I said, I mean, I felt better saying, I said, no, I got to stick with my guns.
Yeah, that's what we call loyalty when you stuck with your guns. Coming away from Tyson, you've opened your gym. What is your ethos when anyone walks into the door of Buddy McGIRK's gym? What's your ethos?
I welcome everybody. And I give everybody an opportunity. Even guys whose skills are very limited. I still give everybody a shot because you never know. And I'm a believer that even if you don't help them with their boxing career, something can happen in it that could change their life. You know what I mean? So they might see something in there and say, you know what, this ain't for me, but I've learned this, this, and this, and it changed their life. So, you know what I mean? That's what I've always believed in because boxing changed my life. You know what I mean? It gave it gave me opportunities to travel, to do things I've always dreamed about as a kid. You know, and it's things that you as a kid you dream about having, think about doing, and when you're able to do it and make other people happy that you want to make happy, it's like it's the greatest feeling in the world. So 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 when people come to my gym, I open the gym to any and everybody. And some people tell me I'm crazy for that, but I'm like, you know what? You can make a difference in someone's life, man. So
but why are they saying that you're crazy? Are they saying that you should be selective?
Yeah. I get that all the time. You know what I mean? I get it all the time. And I gotta honestly say that sometimes you get some people that in left field, but they still appreciate what you're doing for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You have to have that spirit. You've got to have that heart to do that.
Yeah. I mean, when I had my gym, there was a guy who used to come to my gym, and he was an older gentleman, and he worked for some company in town. And all he wanted to do was just hit the speed rack.
And that was it.
He would come in, hit the speed bag, and then after he hit the speed bag, he'd leave. He would come on his lunch break, hit it for like 3 or 4 rounds, and leave. And people look at me and like, "What are you doing, man?" I'm like, "Hey, I'm making the guy's day, man. You know what I mean? So let him do it. He ain't bothering nobody. He's not bothering anybody. So just let him do it. And then I used to have Vero Beach, where I live, was a lot of retired people there. So a lot of the older senior citizen gentlemen used to come to my gym, and my gym was their hangout spot. Their wives would drop them off there, and they'd be in the gym all day long telling war stories. And I wouldn't, and and you said listen to these old men, you know what I mean? And it to me, people say, why do you have these old men in the gym? I'm like, they're not bothering anybody. I'm like, one day you might be that old man
Yeah,
and need somewhere to go.
yeah, it's somewhere to go.
Yes, and they look forward to coming to the gym. And then when I was smoking cigars, when I was done, me and the old guys would sit outside, have a cigar, and talk trash for a couple of hours. You know what I mean? And we did that 6 days a week. But you know what I mean? I'm a believer, and you give anybody and everybody a chance, and if
Yeah.
they mess up, then they can't say you didn't try.
So here you are, you've had the gym, and a lot of people still come back through your doors. Tell me something. One of the guys who James Toney. Tell me a bit about James Toney. He's
James Toney.
he's my legend.
I can honestly say that he is one of the greats, without a doubt. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The
Yeah,
man,
yeah,
and he could have been one of the greatest
yeah.
if he took it as serious as he did early in his career. I think
He
the
was
biggest
on
mistake
par.
I
Yeah,
think the biggest mistake he made was leaving Bill Miller, because Bill Miller didn't take no BS. I mean, Bill Miller was hard and firm on James, and James got to the point where he wanted to get away from that.
yeah.
And I think
He
if he
wanted
stayed
a
with
man.
yes, and I think he should have stayed with Bill, because Bill, another trainer, he was a master, man. Bill was great.
But I mean, was he with Bill before or after? Because you trained him. So when
Oh, I got James when I worked with James Toney, it was at the end of his career. I mean,
okay,
it was Bill Miller was with him from day one, and then he left Bill, and then he wound up with Freddie Roach. But all that stuff he learned came from Bill Miller. I mean, Bill
yeah,
Miller was a genius. But when I got with James, it was at the end of his career. You know, what I mean, it was the game was over. You
yeah.
know, what I mean, he was just.
Gave
I
up.
mean,
He gave up because I think pound for pound, I know everyone makes a comparison with him and Roy Jones Jr., who is just the most prolific boxer. But I just wish that he would just hang up his bloody gloves and stay there. And I don't understand. Me personally, we have a lot of boxers who decide to come out of retirement way after way after 40. I can't speak for Bernard Hopkins; he's been fighting for a while, but these guys have hung up. They either entered as a champion. They did lose, but then they come back to have these fights, which are just no benefit to them. What do you say to fighters? What is your take on fighters like that?
it is. Fighters are the first one to know and the last one to admit it. I mean, we're the first ones to know that it's not there anymore.
Yeah,
That we lost that step, but we're the last one to admit it. We have an excuse every day. I was that guy. So I mean, as a trainer, you got to say, man, look, it's over. And
it's
some fighters will leave you. Some fighters will leave you and be like, you don't know what you're talking about.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah. And
but
become men.
I mean.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, is it the buzz? Is it when I see a fighter, my take on it is that their life has been boxing. Their life is getting up and training at 5 o'clock in the morning. They didn't think to do anything else. There's no other scope. That's all they know is boxing. And then they stop, and the buzz, hearing the voice of the ring announcer saying, yeah, blah, 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 and the new, or and this is so-and-so walking into the ring. And it's the adulation of the fans that, pushes them that far. I've seen fighters where you could see mentally after they've finished fighting the battle of dealing with not being in the ring anymore.
It's a tough battle. Listen, it's a tough, especially if you've been to the top. It's not easy. But there's a thing called you got to be a realist. And, what I mean, and I had to be a realist for myself and say, hey, game is over, man. So it was a big adjustment. I'm not gonna lie, but I had no choice. I had to do it. I had to make it. I had to survive. So
do that with the fighters that you've had, because you've had you've, as I said, you've had an array of boxers. Is that the same?
You know what I tell any fighter? I says, if I ever sit you down and hand you a cigar, that means the game is over.
I hope nobody watches that. None of your fighters watch that.
So I had a fighter tell me one day, he says, buddy, don't give me the cigar yet. I said, it's on the front seat of the car. It's coming. Don't worry.
You've had females in your gym. I know you've had Layla Ali, haven't you?
Yes.
And you trained her. So what is your take on women boxing?
I think it's great. The women work harder than the men.
Really?
I believe they feel, oh, yeah, because they have something to prove.
Oh.
You know what I mean? They have something to prove. So they work harder than the men. I mean, Layla worked hard. Sometimes I tell her, that's it. And she's like, nah, Well, she argue with me. I'm like, yo, that's it. Go home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the women work really hard.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not professional. I have my gloves. I do go to the gym and I do box. I have a boxing school that I go to. And then I have a few people that will say to me, come to my gym. You interviewed us, come to my gym. So I can't, I'm now that the gyms are back open, the boxing gyms, I should say, I cannot wait to just literally strap up and hit the pads, you know what I mean? And the mitts. And I get, so that some people, I've heard, like, why would women want to be boxed, And I said, but it's the same ethos. It's the same thing for a man. You're saying a woman shouldn't be punched in the head or a woman shouldn't take so many hits, but we have the same equilibrium. So what would be the difference? So that's why I'm asking your take on,
Good point. Good point. Listen, I'm not against it. I love it. I mean, the women, like I said, they work hard, and some of them put on better fights than the guys.
Yeah, they do. Like we've got Katie Taylor, etc. And there's a lot of women coming through the ranks as we speak. I personally, I'd rather train but not box.
Right.
rather not get hit. Not good with the hitting, but I've taken some hits. But I wish I could have had that sort of same pugilist spirit. There's something else that you are, for me, the voice of boxing, and I know you give your opinions quite regularly because I've seen it on Instagram and I've seen it on the YouTube. And sometimes, we have a guy over here. I don't know if you ever met Master Knowledge. He is a wealth of knowledge. I don't know if you ever come across a guy. His name is Master Knowledge, and he's I would say a sports an analyst for MTK Global, and ESPN. And, the similarity, he's an ex-boxer himself, but your wealth of and everything, you seem to remember the coaches and the trainers, because as I said, going back to the trainers, they're not the same as back in your day. Then, in your time of training, they're not the same. I don't know if you've ever met, we've also got Don Davis. I don't know if you've heard of the boxing coach Don Davis. He's also a British coach over here. He's just opened a brand new boxing gym in South London, and as he said to me, his son, who's another coach, he coaches under the what's his name, AJ, Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua's fights are all coming up, and you are now looking after Chisora. How did the Chisora, and I'll come back to AJ in a moment, because they are in the same fight category. What did you see in Chisora, and how did that come about?
He called me. He DM'd me on Instagram, asked me for my phone number. So I just gave him my phone number. Then he called me, he talked, and I said, well, listen, let's get together for a week and see what happens. He says, I'll get you a ticket for next week. So I came out here for a week, and then after the week, I went back home, and here I am.
And now you're back again.
I'm back
Now
again.
you're in his camp. I don't want you to give off any trade secrets because Parker is a very good fighter. And some people are saying, why would Parker fight Chisora? I think everyone deserves a chance. Everybody. Chisora, when he fought against Dillian White, and I don't know if, and I know this for a fact because you actually said you didn't know anything about Chisora.
No, I didn't. I've never seen him fight enough.
So you've taken a guy who you know is a boxer in the UK, nothing at all. And in the first week that you've got come down and you've trained with him, you felt that this is it. You felt this is right.
I knew that he set in his ways to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And so the key was to get him to listen when it was time for him to listen. You know what I mean? That was the key.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the key. You know, you don't have to listen to everything, but this one thing is you got to listen.
Because he's renowned for that.
And he'll look at me, he'll give me a look like, I got you. And he'll go out. As long as he tries it once, I know we're okay. If he don't try it, then when he comes back to the corner, then that's when I give him hell.
See, I think you've got Chisora at the right time. As I said, you don't know the Chisora that we've been watching for the last 10 years.
Right.
In my boxing opinion, I feel that you've got Chisora at the right time. They always say you can't, what's it? The old donkey can't change their tricks, and people aren't teachable. But I think that you have, because for him to change, I don't know his full story now that you're with him. You know, he and Michael, he's under Hayes, and they fought. They didn't even like each other. But this guy, he's turned his life around, man of God, and he's changed. No one thought he could change his thought process. You understand? Right. And for me, I just believe that when I saw that you're training, I went, wow, he has gone to the best of the best. He knows that this is it. He knows that I've been with so many people and I'm going to go out. If I'm going to go out, I'm going to go out with the best. That's what I see. And I commend him for that.
That's pretty much what he said.
Oh, really?
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Oh, my
pretty
days.
much what he said. You know what I mean? He's just like, look, buddy, if I'm going to go out, I'm going out with a bang. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, it's like, look, a guy asked me, well, what makes you think you can change him? I'm not trying to change him. I'm just trying to, smooth out some of the rough edges.
That's
you
right.
You can't change him at this point.
Exactly. He's
37. He's been doing it his way for years.
That's right.
I mean? So you just got to know when to lay off the gas and when to put your foot on the gas.
That's right. And I'm not going to lie. Sorry, Derek. I follow him on Instagram, but up until a couple of weeks ago, and everyone's going on about the Parker fight. There's a lot of words going on about, because the heavyweight division the British at the moment is running the heavyweight division, as in the AJs, the Furies, Parker, then you've got Ortiz, and you've got Wilder, and it's a bit crazy at the moment, and because of the WC, there's so many belts. I've got so much going in my head because I'm going to come to you about these belts, because there's so many little divisions. If there's not IBF, there's WC, there's Intercontinental, then they've made up, you've got prize fight, and it waters the boxing down. I feel it just it waters it down. You're not getting the true pugilists of boxing, because there's so many people who feel that they can box. So
I agree with you 100%.
Does that make sense to you?
Without a doubt. I agree. I just think there's too many champions.
Right. And so you don't know who to go, to go with. Let me go in the AJ camp, because I want to go and have your take on Davis and Ryan Garcia, Lopez in that field as well. And because for me, it's nice to have a conversation with someone about boxing. I don't want to talk to you or at you. I want to have that conversation. With AJ and the Fury, and then you've got Chisora. How do you see that division matching up?
Well, I mean, I think AJ and Fury is a fight that boxing needs.
Oh, yeah.
Boxing needs it, and it's going to be an interesting fight. And right now, as far as Chisora, I'm just focusing on next week. I'm not looking
Yeah,
past it.
yeah,
I mean, I just want to get this fight over with and jump
yeah,
on a plane and go home.
yeah, yeah. But another thing that I noticed with you as well, I find that a lot of boxers who become quite delusional with their camp, um, and you have turned them around. I'm not going to name them all, like Kovalev. When you had Kovalev in your camp, you know, um, Kovalev. Yeah, I've got to pronounce it
Yeah,
right. I bit my tongue then. Kovalev. I watched him with the Andre Ward fight. Literally the last fight that he had, and then he then came to you because it's like he had burnt himself out. But then by the time you took him on, and people were saying, "Oh, he's too old to fight Canelo," blah, nah, you shouldn't have fought Canelo.
right.
I, nah, I want. What's your take on that? Because even though the fight's gone, he was a great fighter. I don't
My
know if
my thing
why
is
now.
dealing with anybody, not just fighters, anybody. It's about communication. I mean, it's about communication. If I mean, if there's no communication, you're not going to get anything done.
That's right.
I
That's right.
mean, you got to have that communication and respect for each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and the fighters got to feel it. You see, the trainer to the fighter is like the big brother to the little brother. I mean, the little brother's looking to the big brother, and he's looking to him for answers.
Yeah.
The fighter's looking to the trainer for answers.
Hmm.
Even if he might know the answer to it, he's still looking to you to see if you're on the same page. You're like that. You are their comfort zone.
That's right. That's
You know
right.
what I mean? And you are their comfort zone. So you have to know your fighter. You got to study him every day. You got to watch him. You know what I mean? Not just physically, but mentally. I mean, you got to watch his body language. It's so much to it if you love the sport. Because
Right.
some guys are just there just to be there.
That's right.
See, I
Because
study the fighter, every action of the fighter. When they're in a bad mood, I feel them out, see how to get them out that bad mood.
mm,
I got to know these things. I'm going to spend 4 or 5 weeks with you. I got to know how to deal with you.
with you, yeah. Because
You know what I mean?
checked with you had when Kovalev, because I think he fought Andre Yard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a tough fight,
Yes.
a very tough fight indeed. But
Right.
then, again, watching you guys in the corner, is watching how he responded to you
That's
because it
the
was,
key.
yeah,
Like, they come back to the corner. They looking at you like, okay. And if they feel a negative vibe from you, you're not going to get anything out of them. If they feel a sense of urgency from you, you're not going to get it down. You got to have them that. You got to have that confidence. They got to feel that confidence. When they feel it, even if they're losing, if they feel it, they still think they're going to win it, and they might go out and pull it off.
exactly. But
You know
this
what I
is
mean?
it because you
Yeah,
don't know. We've seen fighters. Nobody thought that Lemachenko would have got beaten by T.
I
Lopez.
did. I did.
Nobody. Did you? Really?
I picked,
Why? Why?
I picked. Not only did I pick Teofimo, he came to visit me after the fight because he heard I was one of the few who picked him.
Oh, really? Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
my God. Yeah, I think you did. Hold on a second. Have I got his picture here?
yeah.
Yo.
He
Yes.
came to see me. He came to see me. He goes, "You're one of the few people who picked me to win."
That is mental. And it's
Yeah,
only because I was just putting people that you've had in the gym, that you've had an array. You've had James Toney come back through recently, back in the gym just to hang out. Here's you and Chisora. But you've had an array of all the boxers come back through the gym, just passing through, just visiting, etc. Do you know what I mean? But
yeah.
Canelo is, even though he's left his manager, and I don't understand it. He wants to go on his own. He's had all this issues. He had the drug thing against him, etc. And don't judge somebody by whatever the court case is. It's seeing that he is a pound for pound. His body shots. I wince just even mentioning the word body shots when it comes to Canelo, but he's fighting Billy Joe Saunders.
Interesting fight.
Exactly, on the 8th of May. And I'm British, but I'm not a fan of Billy Joe Saunders. I have no reason. I don't understand why I don't. I watched him box. I think for me, something, but the man is skilled. He is properly skilled. So
Right.
for him to fight Canelo, I
It's
think
going to be interesting.
he's probably got the footwork.
It's going to be interesting.
What's your take on that?
Billy Joe has the style to beat him,
You think that's what everyone says,
but the key is you got to maintain that focus for 12 rounds.
right? And not get cocky with it.
There you go.
He's got the footwork. I think he's silky.
He's got the ability. He's got the perfect style.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
the key is, can you maintain that focus for 12? I tell guys maintain it for 15 rounds, even though it's a 12-round fight. Put in your mind you're going 15, so you can keep that focus for 15 rounds.
But you fought the last 15 that would be, you see, now this is all coming back to me. You were the last fighter. I think it might have been against Howard Davis, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Valerie! Right. Sorry, this is just, I'm trying to get everything in my head that I can remember. But I remember that your fight was the last fight that 15 rounds. And then down to 12 rounds.
It was the last 15 rounder in the United States.
That's correct. Yes.
Because right after that, Jorge Paez fought a 15 rounder in Mexico.
Okay. Okay. So
And
it's in the United States.
yes. And then Jorge Paez fought a 15 rounder after I fought Howard Davis. And then after that, there was no more 15-round fights.
Did they say why? Was there a reason why?
They say to protect the fighter. I think they should bring it back.
Oh, do you? Oh.
Yeah. Fighters should take it more serious.
James, if I'm telling you, with the amount of boxers that we have now, if they went 15 rounds, they wouldn't last.
They're taking more serious now.
Yeah. The fifth, they just wouldn't last. It's, some fighters, and I'm begging everyone that listening to this, or even on the replay, please check out Buddy McGIRK's boxing career, his fights, because there's a difference of trying to knock someone out in the first round, the second round, the amount of energy again, I'm talking boxing, tell me if I'm wrong, you are the trainer, but you expand so much energy in the first, trying to knock someone out in the second round, when in fact, I just think if you took your time, that sweet punch will come.
If it's going to come, if it's meant to be, it'll be.
Exactly. So it's a case of going for what you've been training to do.
Which is win. Either by any means necessary.
Exactly. If the punch comes, it comes.
There you go.
Another thing, and about you, which was, as I said, anyone that watches the replay back on this, please go and look at Buddy McGIRK. Your fights, you had TKOs. I think you had 48. Let me see, am I correct? Yeah, you did. You had 48 TKOs in your 85 out of the 73.
Yeah.
48 TKOs. And again, a wicked record to have. But also, you actually went a lot of the distance. And people used to say back then, and even when I've watched you, you had an engine. It's like you didn't know when to stop. You didn't know when. It's like, when we say over here in soccer, you need to play the full 90 minutes. You don't just stop after you've scored the goal or you take someone. So fighters that you have coming through and others that you see, what do you take your take on Gervonta Davis and the Ryan Garcia? What's your take on that?
I mean, those young guys got a lot of talent. They can fight. They got a lot of natural ability, But I mean, these guys got to get together and fight each other to bring boxing back to life.
Is it Garcia just decided that he's taking a break?
I mean, so.
But he just said he's taking a break. Why would you take a break when you've just fought? My God, it wasn't Bonner. Was it Bonner or Brody? He fought. He beat him. No one thought. Oh no, oh my God. Ryan Garcia fought. Oh my God, Jesus, that's terrible. It's not Luke Campbell. But he fought, and no one, he gave the body shot. It was a British guy.
Right.
That's terrible. It was the last fight that he did. Then everyone said that he's going to fight Tank. Everyone said, yeah, bring on Tank. And they said, no, bring on Haney first. Haney will be better off. But it's like they're dodging each other. Why would you dodge? I know that Davis.
We trying to figure that out. We'll be here all day trying to figure that out.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? I don't get it. It's either let's just get it on, let's see who's the best of the best. But I
Right.
think somehow Ryan Garcia has decided to take a break. Somebody, you know, some people can be really cruel. Someone said, "Oh, what from Instagram?" Because you know he's a full-on Instagrammer. But I don't. If he's suffering mentally, he needs to have someone in his corner that should be able to focus him. Is that any time? Have you ever come across that with any of your fighters, where mentally they felt that they'd lost it, but they had something?
Let me tell you something. I can be here all day telling you that about fighters I've dealt with that had serious issues. You know, you just have to have patience, and you gotta have the know-how how to deal with them.
And that's the key, though, isn't it?
Yes, you
That's the
gotta have
key.
the know-how. You gotta feel it's exhausting. But if you love your fighter, you do what you have to do to make sure that they're okay.
But you just said exhausting. You've just touched on something. You said it's
It's
exhausting. How do
mentally
you deal with
exhaustion.
it then? How do you
Because
deal with it then?
how
Because
come what?
that's a lot of energy. That's a lot of energy that you have to take on. That's empathy. That's that, you know. So good days, bad
I've
days.
I've
How do you
I've
deal with
I've
it?
I've been able to deal. I mean, I've been blessed with it. I guess that's 7 sense to deal with people like that. I had a brother, God bless him, who I had to deal with, who was, you know, one minute he'd be here, the next minute he's ready to kill everybody. So,
Oh,
you know what I mean? So I had to, as a youngster, I had to be able to talk him out of things. And it got to the point where I was the only one I can talk him out of doing certain things. I mean, and
yeah.
so and that's helped me in the sense of dealing with fighters because I've had some fighters that I can't even explain it, but and because if I told you, you wouldn't believe it.
I
But
probably
when I
would.
when I confront them, they look at me and they give me a crazy look, but then they understand and they feel where I'm coming from, and then the key is to get their attention on some. You got to bring up something that's going to get their attention,
Hmm.
and then once you get it, it's like riding a wave. Once you get it, you got to keep it until you get them right, not all the way back where they need to be, but halfway. And then they feel comfortable. Then they feel comfortable, and then they'll talk to you. They might ignore you for a little while, but then they'll talk to you because they feel like you're on the same page with them right now. It's all
Right.
it's all mental. It's a lot of work. But
You as a trainer,
if you love your fighter and you
that's
care
got to be
about your fighter,
hard. Yeah.
I
Do
mean,
you
if
see your
if you
fighters
look
as
at him
a
as a
person?
human being, not a paycheck.
Yeah. Do you
I
see
mean,
your
that's the key.
fighters like a child? Like, do you see them as like you treat them like their family? They're part of your
Yes,
fraternity. Is that how
yes.
you treat your fighters?
Yes, because you want them to be able to come to you for
Yeah.
anything. Mainly just to talk, because you get some fighters that just want to be heard.
Yeah.
Some fighters that everyone's around them for their purpose, not because they care about that fighter, not because they worried about. No, it's what they can get off of that fighter, what they can
Right.
get from
Right.
me. I mean, do you love me for me or love me what you can get from me? That's what a lot of these fighters are dealing with right now because they're making so much money.
Money.
And
Right.
everybody's around them and everybody's got their hand out, everybody's got their hand in their pocket. And then they start to say, wow, I need somebody I can talk to. Where's everybody at? There's nobody there.
That's right. That's right. And
So
that's the
but
thing about having those people in your camp that's going to listen.
if you know, if a fighter knows that, hey, I can call up my trainer at any time and talk to him, they're gonna call you. And then you listen to them. You hear them
Yeah.
out.
What I do also want to ask is, and I noticed it recently in Dillian's white fight just recently, he brought in
Power
late.
night.
That's right, really, really late into the camp. Um, again, in my eyes, not trying to be blinkered, watching Dillian over the years as well. Do you think that's so late at that point to bring someone into your camp?
No, because sometimes you can bring a guy in late, but
Yeah,
that guy can push the right buttons.
But if they don't, it would be detrimental, especially if you're going for, mandatory fight.
Right. So I don't know Dylan White, but I think maybe he had conversations with Harold Knight. I mean, and felt him out over the phone. See, hey, see where this guy's at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, it was a good move. I think
Yeah,
he
it
did it.
was.
It
Because
was
he's
a very good
legendary.
move.
Yeah, he
Very
was in
good move.
He's
Harold Knight,
legendary.
Harold's a good guy. So it was
Yeah.
a really good move on his part. And it paid off. It paid
Be-
off for him. You know what I mean, but
Before I can,
I don't want to end this, but I gotta.
that's what I was trying to say to you. I know we're gonna have to come to the end of this.
Right.
What pearls of wisdom? Because I know that you give a lot of inspiration, mentoring. Because I've looked at the things that you say in the mornings, and they're so positive. As we're coming out of COVID lockdown, the boxing world is opening back up again. What pearl of wisdom could you offer to everyone out there before you go?
And I'm a firm believer, and I'm always about staying positive. I mean, like no matter what, no matter how dark the road seems, there's a light somewhere at the end of that tunnel. You know what I mean, you just gotta keep grinding. You know what I mean? And when you get there, get what you can get out of it, cherish it, and move on because somebody else is coming right behind you.
That's right. That's right.
Somebody else is coming right behind you.
That's absolutely right. I know that you've got your son as well, who you've not. I noticed that you don't go in his corner, but you train with him.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't fight no more. He decided
I
to give it.
know he's
Yes.
given it
So
up. Yeah,
thank
yeah.
God. Thank God.
Yeah. Did you
Thank
say
God he's
thank
not
God?
fighting no more. I never want him to fight.
Oh wow.
As a kid, I never. When he went to the boxing gym with me, he never hit a bag. He did. I made him sit down. He didn't start boxing until he was almost 20 years old. When he went to college, because
Yeah.
I didn't want him to be a fighter.
And is that because of the boxing world? Just
You hit it
as
because
a
of the boxing world.
boxing world. Yeah, I thought
Yes.
so.
I
Buddy,
mean, he had too many other natural talents in sports
yeah,
to be dealing with the BS in boxing.
boxing. That's right. And I read that. I actually did read that because I've listened to a great podcast, a few years back when you were talking about that. I think it was back in like 2018, and you were saying the same sort of thing. But I wanted to ask you. But I want to thank you for taking your Sunday out.
Thank you for having me on a Sunday, even though you don't do Sunday.
I could sit and talk boxing. There's so many other things I didn't even get to ask you, but for me, it was just a pleasure of having you on. Knowing that you're in our country, I know you've been here a few times, but for me, growing up, and I'm not young, I'm old, but for me, growing up watching boxing over the years, and my dad will be very, very proud. I can tell you that for nothing. It's the fact that we've watched you, we think and we know and we thought still the same top boxer. It was a name that it always bounded. You just was so good, and a brilliant trainer. And I'm gonna, keep watching everybody that you train. Thank you for myself, standing in my truth. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. It took out your boredom, and it's different from the interviews that you may have done in the US. I have a different style altogether.
It was great. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We will be cheering Derek on. Well, I always cheer Derek on.
Thank you.
Give him from us. Tell him we've got you. We got you. Everybody's good. All right. Take care of yourself. God bless you.
Okay. You too now.
Thank you. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Oh my God, everybody. I could have sat and spoken to Buddy McGIRK all evening. This is the trainer, he's fought Pernell Whitaker, for those who knows about boxing. He had Antonio Tarver. He trained Antura Gatti. He also trained Kovalev, who's fought Andrew Ward twice. He's also who fought Canelo. This is a man who knows his stuff. He knows his shizzle. Please, anyone that's watching this on the replay, check out James Buddy McGIRK fighting back in the day. He's had the greats around him he knows all the Hearns, everyone has passed through. But for me, it's a blessing I feel grateful that I get to speak to one of my heroes. And on that note, on a Sunday, which I don't do, and my team lost, I feel blessed. And I hope that you guys feel blessed too in our company. Standing in my truth, Valerie M. Take care. Good night. Bye-bye.